Always look forward to spending a little time with our friend Adam Schuster. He's the Director of Budget and Tax Research at Illinois Policy. It's illinoispolicy.org. As I've mentioned time and time again before, you definitely should have Illinois Policy as one of your bookmarks. There is so much interesting stuff there about our state every single day. It is researched really well. There are lots of critiques and lots of suggestions on how to do things better. But Adam's got a piece out that you're going to want to take a look at, and it's called Waste Watch, nearly $100 million of waste in Illinois state and local government. This will make you feel good about being a taxpayer. Adam, good morning.
Good morning, Riley. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for being on the show, man. A lot of hard work went into this report. This is really a comprehensive look at, well, waste.
Yeah, thanks. It's not an easy job, and that's actually one of the big problems is that the average taxpayer would have a really hard time finding out what their governments are spending money on, and especially at the local level, because a lot of this information is not posted online. And governments are, they do a poor job of keeping their financial records oftentimes, and they're often hesitant to hand them over to me. I had a couple of governments that I had to go back and forth with because they didn't want to provide the information to make it available to taxpayers to see what they're spending money on.
Yeah, for fearing that perhaps we won't look so good, and there's a chance that they don't. You point out in the beginning of the piece, residents have little faith that their governments are spending their tax dollars well, and for good reason, which you identify and let people have a look at.
Absolutely. I mean, we have to remember, too, the context here is that we've got $8 billion in unpaid bills at the state level, the lowest credit rating in the nation, and state lawmakers just hiked taxes on the average Illinois family by about $730. That means families across the state are tightening their own budgets, and they might be making hard decisions like, and as property taxes are going up, too, they're making hard choices like buying an off-brand cereal or going out to eat less, and lawmakers are going on a spending spree, and that's a slap in the face to taxpayers who ultimately fund the government.
We're spending some time with Adam Schuster from Illinois Policy, illinoispolicy.org. You point out that given that lawmakers made a 1,245-page budget public just hours before voting on it, the amount of waste and pork in there will come as a surprise not only to you as the taxpayer, but maybe even to them as lawmakers.
Yeah, that's right. Unfortunately, I had some of them calling me and texting me, trying to figure out what exactly was in this budget before they were voting on it. Because I don't know about you, but this 1,245-page bill, 5 hours would not be enough time for me to read through that.
No, I would hope for maybe 10 days or more to really try to get a handle on it. A few hours, I'm probably going to barely get through the preface. Let's get into some of the wasteful state spending, because some of these are really going to resonate with people.
Yeah, so just a couple examples. There's $13.1 million in there that goes to the Illinois Arts Council, which is, by the way, chaired by the wife of Speaker Madigan, Shirley Madigan, who's been in that position since 1976, almost as long as Mike Madigan's been in the House.
Okay.
And the organization has faced criticism in the past for misusing taxpayer funds, for giving grants to asset-rich organizations that didn't need it, and for violating the Freedom of Information Act.
Outstanding. I do have a question on this one, being that the Arts Council is chaired by Mike Madigan's wife. Is that a paid position?
That's a good question. I'm not sure about that. I would have to look into that.
I would be stunned if it weren't somehow. All right, so we got $13.1 million on the Arts Council. What else are we firing off money at?
Well, there's about $23 million, $23.6 million in here for bike paths and programs that encourage bike riding in the state. We're talking about, $4 million on county fairs and promoting county fairs. We're talking about, $7.2 million on the Sparta World Shooting Complex, which, a lot of people might like it, but the thing is, if things are valuable, they can be privately funded because people will pay for them voluntarily. And then there's, another $27 million in here, what I call pork barrel spending, where you've got these special projects that are sort of handed out as candy to lawmakers in order to buy their votes.
Okay. Yeah, these are the little things that go into your treat bag that we hope you'll remember next time we have a roll call and we need some votes.
That's right. So we're talking about, swimming pools, water parks, running tracks in the city of Chicago. We're talking about a racetrack down in Madison County. We're talking about $100,000 for a National Railway Museum in Galesburg. And, some of these things seem like small dollar amounts, but they really add up. As you can see, the total here is nearly $100 million. And any amount of waste is ultimately a slap in the face of taxpayers and indefensible given the state of our budget in Illinois.
Well, and some of the things that you point out on your list, $10 million to rehabilitate the dilapidated and privately owned Uptown Theater in Chicago.
Yeah, that one really bothers me because we're talking about a theater that was bought at a judicial sale for $3.6 million and is now being renovated for $75 million. $10 million of that is coming from state taxpayers. So every taxpayer in the state, whether you live in Chicago or not, is paying for this rehabilitation of a privately owned theater. And then there's another tens of millions of dollars coming from Chicago taxpayers, and all of the profits is going to go to this private company that got this thing on the cheap.
It's like, having the taxpayers build you a new stadium.
Yeah, exactly. And unfortunately, that kind of thing happens as well. In the local government waste here, we're looking at, Rosemont's a great example because in Rosemont they sort of run it like a business, and we're talking about taxpayer money going to the Chicago Wolves, taxpayer money going to a haunted house operation, and I don't know why these things need to be government functions. And that's ultimately what my definition of waste here is. Things that don't serve an essential purpose of government and don't provide value to taxpayers. And, that's an important distinction there because people are more willing to pay taxes when they at least see some value in return and when they trust their elected officials to be good stewards of their money. And in Illinois, there's no reason to trust them, and people don't. And that's one of the reasons people are fleeing the high taxes in this state.
Yeah, because every time you turn around, you're getting hit with something else. We're discussing with Adam Schuster his piece, Waste Watch, nearly $100 million of waste in Illinois, state and local government. Now, you bring this up, and I guess many people hadn't considered it. I hadn't either. We pay the second highest property taxes in the nation, but the local governments levying those taxes waste a considerable amount of taxpayer money, including lobbying.
Absolutely. And that's one, it doesn't mean every single bill they push for is going to be a bad bill. Some of them could be good bills, but they are almost always self-interested. So municipalities spent $2 million on lobbying in this report and about $500,000 from park districts. And I'll give you an example of what kind of things government lobbies for. So there was a bill to consolidate townships. It would have made it easier for local voters to consolidate townships. Eliminating an unnecessary form of government often that just adds to your property tax bill. And there were hundreds of township officials who slipped against this bill. That means they filed against the bill with the Illinois General Assembly. So they're lobbying to keep their own government alive.
Well, if they don't, who will?
Exactly. It's certainly not going to be the taxpayers.
Wow. Park districts spent a total of more than $500,000 on lobbying.
That's right. And, one of the things that really bothers me about this park district spending is a lot of it goes to conferences. So for park district employees to go stay at the Hyatt Regency Hotel in Chicago or, fly down to New Orleans for a conference and this type of thing. And so they're living a pretty good life on the taxpayer dime while you at home might be choosing to, cut back on your food and fun budget. They're living high. There's $65,000 in here at Rosemont was spent on Gino's East. It's a lot of pizza.
That is a lot of pizza. And you point out a local government spent thousands of dollars to drop marshmallows out of a helicopter.
Yeah, that's right. This is the marshmallow drop. And in typical government fashion, this is another big problem is governments don't tend to do things very well. They sort of botched the whole operation, and they were planning to drop 3 loads of marshmallows, and they only ended up dropping 1. But taxpayers spent somewhere between $2,000 and $4,400 on this. Again, it's sometimes hard to tell what the exact dollar amount is. Another one that really gets me is there's some money in here for petty cash at Evanston. It's about $4,000, and again, that's not a huge dollar amount. But the problem is, with petty cash, you look at the financial records, and you can't even tell what they're spending money on. That just means they took cash out of the government account and bought something.
Oh, okay. Yeah, we just had it on hand. We needed it for incidentals, like, pizza, marshmallows, the usual things. Boy, it's
Exactly.
stunning. It's stunning, Adam, to realize and look at polling numbers that say Illinois taxpayers just do not believe that government is doing the right thing the right way with their money.
That's right. We've got the lowest level of trust in our elected officials among all 50 states. And, we have a high tax burden here, but we see a lot more out-migration than other high-tax states. And I think that part of that can be explained by the fact that we just don't trust our politicians in this state to be good stewards of taxpayer money. And, this report is rooting out some of that waste, but it's really just the tip of the iceberg. I mean, we could keep digging into more local governments. This only picked about the top 25 per capita spenders and looked at their budgets, because we've got almost 7,000 local governments in the state. And so going through all of their budgets would be a huge task. But this is proof is in the pudding, right? And this proves to us that they are not good stewards of our money.
7,000 forms of local or units of local government, which I would guess, if we're not tops in the nation, we got to be close.
Oh, we're the number one in the nation. We're number one in the nation for number of local governments, and we're the worst in the nation for people served per unit of local government as well.
Just over 1,800 people, with each local taxing body serving an average of just over 1,800 people.
That's right.
Oh, wow.
And so we've got states with much higher populations like Texas and California, who have got way fewer local governments than we do. And, I'm not an expert on all their budgets. I haven't had time to go look through them. But I would hope that they don't have the kind of waste that we have here in their budgets. Another one, Northbrook Park District spent $3 million on P cards or purchasing cards, and that includes spending money. These are small purchases, but they really add up, as you can see, $3 million at places like Amazon Marketplace or the local theater. And I don't know, you can't exactly figure out what the purpose of that is and what taxpayers get out of it. But that's one of the big problems here is financial transparency.
Just amazing. You guys are going to want to get over to IllinoisPolicy.org and have a look at this, because there's far more to it that we would cover in the time that we're allotted. It's called Waste Watch, nearly $100 million of waste in Illinois, state and local government. You'll find that at IllinoisPolicy.org, and it is well worth a look. Adam, as always, I appreciate you taking time out of your busy day. Outstanding work on this. I know that this must have taken quite a long while, because this is really a comprehensive report you guys have put together. Big pat on the back for Illinois Policy.
Well, thanks very much, Riley. I'm always happy to be on your show.
Have a great weekend.
You too.
There's
Bye-bye.
Adam Schuster, Director of Tax and Budget Research with Illinois Policy, Budget and Tax Research, Illinois Policy, IllinoisPolicy.org.